Do you like small trinkets, keychains, ornaments, and other crafty doodads? Do you like making small art but think maybe it's just a little too big? Do you wish there was a way to make art and then shrink it down to a miniature version of itself? Well then, stick around for today's video because today's topic is sure to help you out. Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents School of Boredom, a showcase of things likely forgotten. My name is Bats, and I'll be your guide today, and hopefully you'll join me for lesson 211, The Growth of Shrinky Dinks, fun at 325 degrees. And before we start today's video, I just want to let you guys know I have figured out the solution to the sound problem, and there will only be a couple more videos that sound like this, but then we'll be on track and things will be looking good. On with the video. Believe it or not, Shrinky Dinks were created in 1973 by two housewives, Morris and Kate Bloomberg. However, these women were more than just ordinary housewives. They were not only creative, but they were Cub Scout leaders. After reading an article in a magazine that explained that drawing on a food container lid and heating it up would cause it to shrink into a tiny trinket, the duo decided to try it out for themselves. And much to their surprise, it worked, which would spark an idea between them. It would be after this initial test that Betty would come up with the idea to have the Cub Scouts create holiday ornaments. However, she would need to obtain the plastic sheets in order to do so. This would prove to be quite troublesome. So after much trial, searching, and hunting, Betty finally got in touch with a plastic specialist that told her what kind of plastic she was looking for. That plastic would turn out to be polystyrene plastic number 6. So now Betty needed to find the supplier of this plastic, and she eventually would. She contacted the supplier, and they confirmed that they indeed sold the plastic, and Betty was excited. Only they told her that she would have to order 1,000 pounds of the material, so Betty agreed. But if you think she was going to be buying 1,000 pounds of this plastic just for her Cub Scouts to make ornaments, then you clearly don't know Betty. Because in true American fashion, after agreeing to the 1,000 pound deal, she requested a sample of 12 8x10 sheets of the material in order to confirm that the plastic would indeed work. Only she allegedly admitted she actually had no intent to make the large order, but instead the 12 sheets were just enough for her Scouts to make their ornaments. Not too long after, the Scouts would be making their ornaments, and this is when Betty and Katie would notice that not only was the activity a huge hit, but according to one article I read, the Scouts even began fighting over the little scraps that were left over. Because as it would turn out, making this craft was a lot of fun. And Betty would also catch a case of Shrinky Dink fever, put on screen, not a real disease. After seeing the excitement this new invention caused, Katie and Betty would decide to try and purchase the 1,000 pound order of plastic with the intent to sell it as a craft toy. The only problem is that Katie and Betty would need to come up with $600 each for the deal. By 2024 standards, that would be about $4,333.53 each, or a total of $8,661.06. It would take some convincing for Betty's husband to fork over that much money. But in the end, after seeing the duo's determination and proof of how they planned to move forward, he would agree to give them the money and the order would be made. Katie and Betty would go full Shrinky Dink fever and start experimenting with the plastic, discovering all of the things it could be used for. In fact, in one of the stories I read while researching for this topic, there's been stated that apparently they tested so many things, Betty burnt out her oven trying to figure them all out. However, they had a huge hit on their hands, and they would begin selling Shrinky Dinks in the Brookfield Square Mall in Wisconsin, and they sold over 300 kits in just the first week or so. This is all it would take for this new thing to take the world by storm. The initial sales were a total success, and they would be asked to come back and sell even more of the toy. Word of this success spread quickly, and soon a handful of toy companies were trying to secure rights to the product. Eventually, the duo would partner with the biggest toy distributor of the era and it was decided to make the project into an art kit that they could advertise and distribute. The kit they would put together would consist of 20 8x10-inch plastic sheets, a permanent marker, and 5 pages of instructions, ideas, and patterns. By the late 1970s, they would license Shrinky Dinks to several other companies, which is why if you look for them yourself, they might come from a few different makers. First at the license would be Color Forms. Fans of my channel might already be familiar with Color Forms because I've discussed them in a previous School of Boredom Quickie, link in the description. And they would allow them to make products using Shrinky Dink's name and method for a fee. And Color Forms would provide some of their own licensing deals, providing some very famous characters to the toy, boosting its sales even more. In fact, because Color Forms already had deals to use highly popular characters, it was simple to move those designs over to Shrinky Dinks. Shortly after this, Shrinky Dinks would be flying off the shelves with Color Forms character sets and full-on play sets with properties like E.T., Strawberry Shortcake, Mr. T, Gremlins, Barbie, Dungeons and Dragons, Holiday Ornaments, Gumby, My Little Pony, The California Raisins, Q*bert, Rainbow Bright, Pac-Man, The Muppets, Alf, and even Marvel superheroes. And that's just a small sample, because in actuality there were hundreds of different sets. And then eventually 1989 would roll around and the licensing would be sold to Milton Bradley. This would create another big boom of properties for the toy and rejuvenate interest. Many new characters and sets were added to this one, including the real Ghostbusters, Garfield, The Simpsons, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, some Disney properties of the time, Police Academy, the animated series, and many other of the originals from Color Forms would be continued through the Milton Bradley name. Shrinky Dinks would eventually be obtained by Just Play in 2020, and as far as I know, they still make them to this day. You can find all sorts of these sets online and in stores. However, these new sets, as far as I can tell, not only have very few licensed properties, but are instead very basic, generic, kid-friendly designs, with very little to offer toy and cartoon fans. But they do sell blank sheets that can be used to make your own Shrinky creations. And buyer be wary, because some of these products, especially the knockoffs, are inferior or straight up unsafe. But there are a ton of these readily available as well. I highly recommend reading reviews before buying. And for those of you craft-savvy people, there are plenty of DIY instructionals out there that'll show you how to make your own Shrinky Dinks. But fans of the classic sets and collectors alike should check places like eBay, because they have a ton of the classic packs, every style, every genre, and every character. And these can range anywhere from $10 to $150 US. But the majority of them can be picked up for around $10 to $20. And they made a ton of them, from Color Forms to Milton Bradley. Personally, I would avoid the Just Play versions. There is supposedly a way to utilize the older kits without actually having to use them, thus destroying them or shrinking them down. This is done by using a scanner to scan the original sheet and print it out onto a blank piece of the plastic. I'm not sure this works, but we're gonna test it at some point. Surprisingly, Shrinky Dinks almost got a cartoon. However, it was cancelled before production even began. And the same can be said for the comic book. I'm actually not sure how either one of those would even work. When I was a kid, my family was really into crafts, and I had a few sets. But the most fun I ever had was when we got the blank sheets, sanded them rough, put our own designs on them, and shrunk them down. Shrinky Dinks were a ton of fun, and I might make a video on some of the DIY methods, or we might shrink down some of the classic actual kits in later videos. But now you know what I think? I've just gotta ask. Did you ever get the chance to use Shrinky Dinks? What was your favorite experience with them? If you didn't get to shrink the dink, what was your favorite childhood toy? Have any comments or fun facts? Maybe I forgot something, or maybe you have a suggestion for a future video, or just want to drop in and say hi. Either way, head on into the comments section, because you know I look forward to hearing from you. And with that, unfortunately, we ran out of time for this School of Boredom lesson. I've been Bats, and I hope you had a good time today as we took a look at Lesson 211, The Growth of Shrinky Dinks, Fun at 325 Degrees. Be sure to check back next time because you never know what we have in store. And as usual, think for yourselves, be excellent to each other, and keep it creepy. Is it getting
hot in here? I gotta have a talk with the higher-ups about this. You guys are in so much trouble.
Hey, thanks for checking out our video. If you enjoyed this one and would like to see more of our weird, creepy, odd, eccentric, or strange content as soon as it comes out, please feel free to click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more. We'll see you later. Keep it creepy.